The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park and have been made possible in part by Ravinia Festival, CJE Senior Life, GAN Music and Sound,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. This is November the 13th, 2013, and the holiday is right around the corner. So I don't know if you better go grocery shopping now, because if you think you're going to be able to get into the stores to get that turkey or that ham or whatever you might be making, even if it's a tuna casserole, you better get in early, because the stores were just packed. I know that there was a game the other day, and you couldn't even get a bottle of pop, let alone potato chips and dip to go with it. It's a little breezy out, and I'm sure you're aware of it. And just to make sure that everybody is comfortable, make sure your windows are closed. And your drapes are pulled so that you can retain the heat in your house. And I think we're going to be having on a heating expert within a month. Should be earlier. I know it's going to get colder, but we really need to talk about the safety of your furnaces, and that's another thing to consider, your safety issue. While you sleep, you have no idea what goes on in your household in the furnace at night. So anyway, well, this evening's program, I hope that you will be absolutely glued to the TV, because this is information to save lives, and that's what we want to do, save lives. We have with us as our guest this evening the State's Attorney of Lake County, Michael Nerheim, who has graciously made himself available to talk about very, very serious situation here in Lake County that we have, that's drugs, and his man Friday, what can I say? Sergeant Dale Navarro, thank you for coming. And so we're going to start the program with the situation of the seriousness of this. So Michael, you want to take this first?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having Dale and myself here. This is an issue that, as we get into this, you'll realize why we're so passionate about this. And I know the title of this program is Lake County's Heroin Epidemic. Yeah. And epidemic is not a word to be used lightly, and it's not a word that any of us use lightly. But it sadly, it fits in this particular instance. Lake County is currently undergoing, again, what I would refer to as an epidemic with respect to heroin and opiate. Heroin, of course, is an opiate, but opiate overdose deaths. And we're seeing it all throughout Lake County, and we're seeing a huge increase in numbers. According to Roosevelt University, from 2007 until 2011, Lake County experienced the largest increase in the amount of young people predominantly dying from this drug, about 115% increase through that time period, and sadly we continue to trend upwards. We're seeing nationally and certainly locally more young people dying every year of heroin and opiate overdose deaths than even of car accidents. And it's something that we see on a county-wide level. Sergeant Navarro sees the real effects of this every day in the jail. I see it every day in the courthouse and with what we're trying to deal with. And the numbers are staggering in terms of the deaths, the heroin problem. And it's something that, contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, is not a problem in only some areas in Lake County. And if you were to put up a map of Lake County and have me put a little dot everywhere in the county where a young person died in the past year, for example, of heroin overdose, there would be dots all over the county. This is something that it's in every school in Lake County, it's in every community in Lake County, and I think the misperception is this is something that only affects some folks in Waukegan or Chicago, those areas, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, this is in Deerfield, this is in Bannockburn, this is in Highland Park, this is in Antioch and Wakanda, and all over. And we, again, at the county level, have a little bit different perspective because, again, when I look at things, I'm not only focused on one particular community, I'm focused on the entire county as a community. So again, the more we can get out and talk about this and educate people, and in particular educate parents, hopefully we can save some lives.
Well, that is unbelievable. I didn't expect to hear what you were saying because, you know, if you're not involved in the drug scene, then you don't know about it. Yeah. But Dale, I mean, your experience in this, how long have you been involved with this particular aspect of...
I would probably say at least the last 7 years. It started with my son being a heroin addict.
Oh, you've got, unfortunately, personal experience.
Absolutely.
Oh, how dreadful.
And working in the jail, the population used to be like 20 years old and older doing heroin. Mm. Now, it's 17, 18, and 19, and to see them detoxing, you know, and the thing is, I'm a parent. So when I see those kids 17, 18, and 19, I think of my own kids.
Sure.
They are somebody's daughter, somebody's son.
Sure.
You know, and it's just so crazy right now. I'm also a police officer. I've been on the streets for almost 20 years too, and I've seen the big change. I'm a police officer in Fox Lake, and the thing is, out there by the beaches, because there's so many beaches and parks, you find needles now.
Wow.
Where our kids are playing. You know, and this is devastating. And what was really devastating is that all these needles, the dirty spoon, this was in my house.
Oh.
So we're trying to educate.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Heroin isn't knocking on our doors. It's in our houses in Lake County. You know, and we need to get together, because if we could get all the communities with the congregations, you know, and the police departments together, sure, we can make an impact. We got over 8,000 to 10,000 gang members documented. And everything from Chicago is out here. We maybe got 1,200 police officers.
That's not enough to even carry any of that. You need...
No, and they go to our police departments. They watch what cars are out on the streets. They know the officers' names who are on duty. You know, we need help from people. When they come home, look out your window. Talk to your child. Be a parent. Don't be a friend. It don't work. You got to be a parent. And I'm talking as a parent today. Yeah. We need help. We need to work together. You know, you have one addict in a town. You can't say, you know, it's one addict, it don't affect me. That car that you left unlocked in your safe driveway, it went through and you're filing a police report. Who do you think went through the car? Who do you think stole your grill in your backyard to sell for a couple bags of heroin? It's that bad.
Is there, I mean, we're doing this for your information, for your education. I'm just devastated. This is the first I've heard about Dale's own child. That's too scary to come home and find stuff like that in a household. I don't know what I would say. I'm not expecting to see anything like that, because we've always taught the children to stay away from drugs. You know, it's not good. I mean, what else can a parent say? But if you are having a problem and you need to contact someone for assistance, or if you find this kind of paraphernalia in your house, can they call for help or assistance?
Absolutely, absolutely. Call me directly. And I've had mothers actually reach out to me and call me, and I've had them in my office, and we've put them in touch with resources. There are a lot of resources out there in Lake County, and we've identified the problem. And I don't want this to be all doom and gloom. We do want to wake people up,
okay.
And I think we're doing that, and I think we're out there. We're talking to people. We will talk to anybody that will have us. One of the things that obviously, Sergeant Navarro deals with this on a personal level, but it shows you and it shows everybody that this is something that can affect anybody. It doesn't matter where you are in Lake County or who you are in Lake County. This affects everybody. And, this is what Sergeant Navarro's been in law enforcement for 30-some years. And he's a parent, and he's somebody that's on top of what's going on in his house, and it can still affect somebody like that. So that's how scary this is. And one of the things that makes this particularly dangerous is, we do a lot of work. My office does a lot of work with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with the FBI, with the DEA out of Chicago. And, we know that Chicago is one of, if not the #1 distribution hub in the country for heroin. Heroin is mostly coming out of Mexico from the cartels into Chicago, and it's being distributed throughout this area, throughout northern Illinois, via Chicago, and of course it's right next door to us. So what that means for us and for our kids is heroin is here. It's easy for these kids to get it. It's very cheap, and one of the most dangerous parts of this is it's very pure. The heroin today is coming in 80 to 95% pure, which means that's its own problem, because we've had several cases where people have overdosed on the first time they've tried it. The other problem is, back in the day, heroin had this taboo where kids, it was sort of seen as kind of a dirty drug, a needle drug, and kids largely kind of shied away because they were, quite frankly, scared of it. Well, it doesn't have that taboo today like it should. Because it is so pure, they don't necessarily have to inject it. We see a lot of young people snorting heroin in powder form, or they mix it with marijuana and they smoke it.
Wow.
But again, that purity means that your first time you try it, you're very likely to overdose. And even if you're lucky enough not to overdose, you're probably going to be addicted for the rest of your life. And heroin is easier for kids to get in high school than it is for them to get marijuana. It's cheaper. We're seeing a lot of drug dealers where the first few doses, they will give it to these kids for free because it's relatively inexpensive to them, and they know if they give you 1 or 2 doses, they own you for life. And it's an addiction that is incredibly difficult to overcome. And it's not something where you have a second chance where you can experiment and then sort of go through a drug phase and then move on with your life and become a productive member of society. What happens oftentimes with heroin is you try it one time and you're an addict. And it's that scary, which is why we're really trying to get out there and let people know this is an issue. Sergeant Navarro talked about the street gangs and the tie-in and the estimate of 8,000 to 10,000 street gang members in Lake County. That's a very real estimate. And this again is
that number is scary.
Right,
wow.
and this again is a county-wide problem. People think, when they think of street gangs, they think, quite frankly, well, that's a Waukegan issue. It's not. Every single county in Lake County is affected by street gangs. You may not have a physical presence of some street gangs in Lake Forest, for example, but I guarantee you the heroin that's in that high school that's killing those kids is being brought by those street gangs. So that's why this is an issue that affects every single person in Lake County.
You have a really nicely done pamphlet. It's called Important Information for Parents About Drug Trends and Laws. This was put out by the state's attorney's office. It's a really nice pamphlet. Giving you what parents can do, how to be a positive role model, drug seizures and forfeitures, the growing trend and threat of heroin, what the signs of heroin, you give the signs, flushed skin, dry mouth, nausea, vomiting, severe itching, clouded thinking, depressed breathing. I mean, do the EMTs or the police or the fire department, are they called when these things?
We have a relatively good idea in terms of the number of heroin deaths, unfortunately, in Lake County. One thing we don't quite honestly have a good handle on is the overall number of overdoses. There is a great number of people that overdose and either call 911 and are treated and released, or they somehow survive that overdose episode and we don't know about it. And simply getting statistics in terms of the overall number of overdoses, because when we talk about some of these numbers, we're talking about deaths. The actual number of overdoses is substantially more than that. And I think when we get a firm handle on that number, it's going to be staggering. One of the things we've begun to do to really go after this problem is when I took office almost a year ago, this is an issue that I've seen coming for a long time. And I was looking around Lake County and I noticed that there are a lot of people like Sergeant Navarro. There are people from different treatment agencies like NACASA. There are people in law enforcement that are very aware of this issue and have been working on this for a long time. This isn't something that I've brought forward. There are people all over this county that are, again, very aware and have been passionately working on this issue. What we've done in the last year is we've put together the Lake County Opiate Overdose Prevention Initiative. And I know it's kind of a long name, it's a mouthful, but essentially what it is we've tried to identify all those different groups, whether you're a treatment provider, whether you're a legislator, whether you're in county government, law enforcement, a hospital, a faith-based provider, again, people like Sergeant Navarro, people that are recovering addicts, people that have dealt with this, and bring all those people to one table. And we've put this program together. We're on our about 4 months operational. We're very excited about the progress we're making. We're the only county in the state that's doing this, perhaps the country. And this collaborative countywide effort where we're bringing all these people to one table to fight this, I think is going to make us very, very powerful, because we can do only so much in law enforcement. Sergeant Navarro can only do so much at the jail. Legislators can only make so many laws. Paramedics can only treat so many people. But if we get everybody to one table and we start to identify these issues, that's where we're going to have our success. And one small example of the overall issue is there's a drug called naloxone. It's manufactured by Hospira, which is a Lake Forest company right here in Lake County. And it's essentially a life-saving drug that if somebody is experiencing an overdose, if they're administered this naloxone, it basically brings them back to life. I mean, it is literally a life-saving drug. One of the things that our initiative is trying to overcome is, I believe, and I think most of law enforcement in Lake County agrees with me, in that every single squad car in Lake County should be equipped with a naloxone kit. These are, I think, $20. Again, they're manufactured by a Lake Forest company. It's a drug, it can be administered out of a nasal spray, so it's not as if you have to give somebody a shot. Again, this will literally bring somebody back to life. If somebody is using heroin and they overdose and they call 911, or somebody they're with calls 911, what happens oftentimes, again, most of the paramedics are equipped with this drug. However, the reality is the police are out there on the street. So if somebody calls 911 and there's a call for an overdose, the police are going to get there sometimes several minutes before the paramedics. And that several minutes could be life or death. So simply equipping every law enforcement officer with this drug is going to save lives. That's one issue. And again, there are many, many issues that if we can get everybody to one table, identify those particular issues, and then tackle them. Education, outreach. We have school districts involved in this program. Hospitals, when I want to know how many people have overdosed, and again, I'm aware of HIPAA and things like that. I'm not necessarily concerned with who they are at this point. We just want to get numbers. So having every single hospital in Lake County as part of our team is going to make us very effective. So that's what we're doing on one end of it. Now the other end is, I do believe these drug dealers, these gangbangers, these kingpins that are coming in and making a lot of money killing our kids should be prosecuted very aggressively.
Oh, sure.
This is not something we can arrest our way out of. I think there's a misconception that prosecutors and police officers are only interested in putting people in jail. There are people that need to go to jail, and if somebody's selling drugs that's killing kids and they're making money off of that, these drug dealers, by the way, they don't use heroin because they know its effects.
Oh,
so
why would they use it?
but they
They
sell
will
it.
hook somebody else,
So
sure.
the people at the top end,
They're not
these
users,
people need
yeah.
to be prosecuted very aggressively, and they need to go to prison for as long as possible. But the people on the bottom end, the addicts, need to be treated, not put in jail and not put in prison. So this is something that we need to work on from both ends. We're very lucky in Lake County. We have some programs that I'm very proud of, and I know the county's very proud of. We have drug court, for example, which is the whole concept behind Lake County's drug court is, you take somebody that has been in and out of prison for most of their adult life, small prison sentences, committing nonviolent, mostly property-related, breaking into somebody's car to steal change so they can buy heroin. And they get caught, they go to prison for a year, and then they come out and they break into another car.
They do it
get
again.
caught, they go to prison for another year. And these folks are basically serving life sentences on the installment plan. They're not getting any better.
Not even funny.
They keep victimizing us as a community, and it's costing all of us a lot of money to incarcerate these people, and it's not always the answer. So what drug court did is it recognized that what if we took that person and instead of putting them back in prison, what if we tried to treat their addiction, take that addiction away and see what happens? And so what we do is, ironically, most people that get into drug court are people with extensive criminal histories, and usually when somebody is sentenced, we sentence them based on what their criminal history was. So if somebody has been to prison and they commit a crime and they're being sentenced, we typically don't go backwards, we go back to prison.
Right.
But in this particular case, and again, these are nonviolent, mostly property-related offenders that are very carefully screened for this program, and again, screened to determine that I'm not going to say the cause, but a contributing factor in their criminal behavior is their drug addiction. And they're put through a very, very intensive drug court program where we basically work on a team approach. We work, there's literally a round table.
Isn't it like a detox? Is that?
Well, what it does is it brings different groups at one table. So again, you can tell I'm a fan of teamwork and collaboration. Yeah. So you'll literally have the state's attorney, the public defender, the judge, the probation department working together as opposed to against each other, trying to help somebody and trying to help somebody overcome their addiction. It's been hugely successful because we've recognized and found through this program that people that successfully graduate from drug court, they overcome their addiction, rather than go back to prison where we all pay for it and they don't get any better and they just come out. Rather than that, they go down a different path.
There's no money in crime, but yes, there is.
Right. They go down a different path where they become productive members of society. They start businesses, they raise families, they pay taxes, and they get on with their lives. And it's very, very successful.
Productive citizens.
Exactly. And that's what we want. I mean, there's not enough jail space to put everybody in jail, and that's not always the answer. So again, if you're a drug dealer, if you're a gangbanger that's out there peddling this stuff to our kids, you're going to go to jail, and you should go to jail. But if you're an addict, or if you're somebody looking for help, we're not looking to put you in jail. We're looking to help people, and that's why we're here. And that's why Sergeant Navarro is here on his own time tonight, because he cares so much about this, not only for his own family, but for everybody else.
I just want to read this list, then I want you to give us like what your day is like and stuff like that. In this pamphlet that I mentioned before, out of the state's attorney's office, on the reverse side, there you go, you can see a little bit, it gives resources you can contact. I'm just going to read off the names, and you can connect with them if this is what you would like to do, or you can contact the state's attorney's office and ask for assistance in that fashion. We've got Lake County Catholic Charities, Lake County State's Attorney's Office. Let me just give you the number anyhow. 847-377-3000. That's the Lake County State's Attorney's Office. Then you've got the Lake County Health Department, Lake County Psychiatric Crisis Hotline, the Illinois Department of Public Health, Northern Illinois Council on Alcohol and Substance Abuse. That's NICASA. The U.S. Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. Lake County After School Coalition. Boys and Girls Club of Lake County. Big Brother and Big Sisters. YMCA of Lake County. And the YMCA of Metro Chicago. Then the last one is Illinois After School Program Directory, where I suppose you could call and connect. But all of this you can get through the state's attorney's office here in Lake County. And I'm sure they'd be happy to send you out one of these little flyers. Just so this is for parents looking for assistance in helping their children and educating them on drug trends, whatever that is. I imagine you know already. It's heroin and marijuana and what other pills they could pop in their mouth and steal from the medicine cabinet or whatever else. And then we're going to get to the Lake County State's Attorney's Office Juvenile Division. This is the anti-gang resources. We're going to go through this information. And this is, this stuff is all hot, so hot you can hardly handle it, but it's got every organization you can imagine on here, and what to do, what parents can do, and what the warning signs are. Absolutely outstanding, because as a parent, you don't know where to go or what to do. So,
you know, one of the coalition that we developed, this countywide coalition, we've identified some areas that really need to be addressed, and one of them is what you're talking about. The list you just read.
Wow.
There are hundreds of agencies in Lake County, and that's the good news. There are agencies, non-for-profit, faith-based, government agencies. There are a great number of agencies in Lake County that are, again, aware of this issue and there to help. The problem, quite frankly, is if you're a parent and you go in your child's bedroom and you find a needle, what do you do? Who do you call? Or if you're an addict and you want help, who do you call?
Yeah.
You can call some of these agencies, but one of the issues that we've identified and one of our goals is to develop essentially a hotline, which would, first of all, we would gather all these different resources and all these different agencies and have a comprehensive list of who they are. I mean, this is something that I'm obviously very involved in. I'm very passionate about. So is Sergeant Navarro. But if the two of us sat here, we couldn't tell you every single non-for-profit and every single group in Lake County because we don't know of them all. So the first thing we need to do is develop a comprehensive list of all the areas out there that are there to help people. And then I would really like to see a hotline where, again, if you're an addict, if you're a sister of an addict, if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, and you just want information, you can call this hotline and be pointed in the right direction for help. Because, again, we did a program not too long ago where we got a tiny bit of press on it, and a mother read that and called me, and I was happy to death because that's exactly what we want, so we can point people in the right direction. But if we could get more and more parents to really pay attention to see this, you know, again, we're really going to save lives.
You know, you mentioned that that drug that brings them back to life. If you need press on that, we'd be happy to have you on the show as many times as you want, or, you know, put it out there for the legislators, whatever you need, because I do believe, as you stated, that the police officer that's out on the street would get there faster than calling the EMTs, you know, because they're probably in that neighborhood cruising anyway.
Well, there are sort of goofy little roadblocks that really shouldn't exist, but one little roadblock with that is you and I can give that naloxone kit. You can go and buy a naloxone kit yourself. You don't need a prescription. And if a loved one is overdosing, you could administer naloxone without liability. And I've been told by experts that it's a drug that if you give it to somebody that isn't experiencing an overdose, it's relatively harmless to them. In other words, if you misdiagnose an overdose and you give them this drug, it's not going to have an adverse effect. The problem, though, is it is, and often in many occasions, is liability. The average citizen can, again, purchase and administer this drug without liability. Police officer is different, and so there are regulations that, you know, ironically, a police officer could be liable if they have this drug where you and I can't, and that's just a silly roadblock that we need to cure legislatively so we can allow these officers. I mean, I talk to chiefs of police all over Lake County, and this isn't something where they're saying we don't want to do this because we don't want the liability. This is something where, you know, almost to a person, every single department in Lake County is saying we want this. We want to help people.
Sure.
We just got to make sure we're covered liability-wise.
Well.
So that's something that really shouldn't be a roadblock, but it is. And that's why this comprehensive team is going to be very effective, because we have state representatives and state senators on our team. So when we need to address these issues, and I don't think this is something certainly the legislature did on purpose, it's just something they overlooked, and hopefully we can cure that.
Well, there's always the Good Samaritan law, you know, if push comes to shove, you can always use that.
Well, that's something.
But to save a life, do you think a parent is going to be angry at a police officer who's going to come to the aid of her child?
Well, the Good Samaritan law, and I'm glad you brought that up, because not all states have it, and it's relatively new in Illinois. And how that affects this issue is if you and I are using heroin together, for an example, and I start to overdose, you may be disinclined to call for help because you don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Because you're using heroin with me. And we've seen case after case after case where people will literally drive up to an ER and throw their friend's body out the door and drive off, or they'll leave a body.
They don't want to be connected.
Because they don't want to get in trouble. And why I'm glad we're talking about this is I want people to know that we do have a Good Samaritan law in Illinois, whereby if under that scenario, if I'm overdosing and you call 911, you're not going to be prosecuted. Because again, we're trying to save lives at this point. I mean, and it doesn't do society any good if you reach out for help to save me and then you're prosecuted for possessing drugs. So again, we're not closed-minded in looking at this in terms of, let's arrest everybody we can and put them in jail. We're very sincere in trying to help people. And I do want to get to Sergeant Navarro, but at some point I want to talk about the significant tie-in there is to prescription medication abuse, because we've spent a lot of time talking about heroin and some of these hard drugs, but it's really an opiate epidemic, and we're still seeing overdose deaths from cocaine and from combinations of drugs, so that hasn't gone away. This is just a new issue.
And I'm sure alcohol is involved in that as well.
Very much so, but there's a very significant tie-in between prescription medication and this issue. So.
Well, we're gonna get to that, because we've got a huge thing here. Look at that, the community outreach, educational thing. You're gonna talk about that.
Sure.
All right, Dale, you're on next. Give us a scenario of like what your day is like, and how you see these young people coming in with overdose, and how do you treat them? And do the parents come to you? Do they talk to you? Anybody crying on your shoulder saying, we've tried to help him, we don't know where to go, he doesn't come home at night, she stays out with her boyfriend. I mean, all these scenarios you've got.
Everything you said, that is what's going on, But first it started with Sheriff Mark Curran. He put together all the pieces of the puzzle, and what we came up with is the term epidemic. It's affecting everybody. So he put together a drug forum where we went to all 5 districts in Lake County and talked about abused prescribed medication and other drugs. And the other drugs were your synthetic drugs, your heroin. And people were devastated with the facts that we told them, because nobody takes the time out to pay attention in the news what's going on. If you see that somebody's getting prosecuted for a drug-induced homicide, you have a drug problem. The shootings, cars getting pulled over and we're finding heroin. Nobody's putting these pieces together. We have, and it has to start with the education now. Because working in the jail, I see these young kids. I'm a parent. It affects me. And to see a parent come into jail to bond out their kid and say, what happened? And you tell them, it's like, my son got caught with heroin. They don't know, because it's like parents are so busy working nowadays that they don't stop and talk to their kids. They don't look them in the eyes. The eyes don't lie. And that's one of the things I try to tell parents. Stop. Look at your child. Look them in the eyes. I missed it. I'm good at what I do. I could talk to people and know. But as a parent, I was making up excuses, like my son was on the computer all night. That's why he's sleeping today. He's tired. His contacts may be aggravating his eyes. That's why they're a little red. But my wife stepped up. She's like, what do you do for a living? And it just clicked, and I confronted my son, got a urine test, and he tested dirty, and it was a battle. Every day, parents don't understand that you're almost by yourself. Who do you turn to as a parent? And I'm a police officer, I'm a correctional officer. Who do I turn to? It was devastating because you bring them to psychologists, you pay big money, and they're like, you have to trust me. They don't want to tell you how to put a plan together because, you know, it's patient, client, like, privilege to where they can't share that information. And I'm a concerned parent. So when you fight this battle, it's 24/7. It brings you to your knees. Because it's not like rehab. Some of the rehab places you go to, you look around, you're like, oh my God, your son just now learned how to get drugs from somewhere else, another part of the county, in Chicago. You know, it's devastating. You have to catch it before it gets to this point. You know, I've been in bad neighborhoods trying to get my son. You know, I got people yelling at me like dope dealers. I'm just trying to save my son's life. You know, and as far as working the jail, to see this stuff, like these young, beautiful girls, there's somebody's daughter coming in. They've caught all these different diseases from the streets, from being passed around. Because once a female gets hooked on heroin, excuse me, they're not respected. You know, it's like on the streets, a heroin addict is the lowest form of life out there. They'll take a beautiful grown boy, have him stealing. You know, and it's just brutal. And to see the parents, they don't know where to turn to. You know, and Sheriff Mark Curran took time out. We put together a list, broken down of rehab places that we could take them, broken down by ages, male, female. If they take insurance, they don't take insurance. Because you got to have these resources if you're going to go out there and educate the communities.
Sure.
And I believe, truly, we can make an impact out here. But it's just getting the parents to come out and listen to what we're saying.
You know, Dale, what you're saying is true, but you know, you also have a stigma attached to this that either they're embarrassed or they don't want to recognize the situation and they might want to handle it themselves. And so what happens then? You tell me, you're the professional.
The one thing, you can't be embarrassed about it. Because at first I kind of was like, oh, I'm in law enforcement, my son's doing heroin.
Yeah.
Who do I turn to? Because I've had friends say, you know what, just let him hit the streets. You know, he'll learn from that. Well, no, he hits the streets, he's going to die.
Yeah.
You're defeating the purpose as a parent. You know, so the battle is endless. And it's just letting parents know, like, hey, we're here to help you. What we're saying ain't pumped up facts. It's life and death right now. Like I say, heroin don't knock on our doors. It's in the community. It's in our houses. Take the time out. Get educated. And we need to get more into the schools. Educate the kids. Because you know what? The kids are going to catch their friends mess around with opiates or heroin before we do as parents.
Sure.
Before as we do as teachers, as police. They're on the front lines. And those are the kids we need to teach. Because with heroin, they don't know all the symptoms. It's not on the package. Dope dealer ain't going to tell you.
It's like baking a cake? I don't think so.
Right. Same with your synthetic drugs. It's marked, not for human consumption. The kids take it as a challenge because word of mouth says it's okay to do. It's a legal drug. You know, it's a man-made synthetic drug. It has nothing to do with cannabis, but that's what they label it. You know, these drugs are made in tubs, dirty buckets. They don't know what these kids are getting, and it's sprayed on pulpery. And we know pulpery is like an incense, you know, and they crush it up, they spray with these chemicals, and they're selling it for big money. And, you know, I mean, one of the symptoms of the synthetic drugs is exaggerated thoughts of suicide. It's not on the package. You know, again, we need to educate the parents and the children because we can make an impact. We got a lot of beautiful, good people in Lake County. And we just need to bring everybody together and just let the facts speak for themselves. You can't not debate the facts. And if you want to...
Facts are facts.
Absolutely. And if you want to debate the facts, I'm telling you, spend a day in a jail with me.
Oh, God.
I will take you in there and I will show you. And you'll be like...
I couldn't take that.
It's brutal because these drug dealers know what they're doing. They give away the heroin for free because they know at the end of the week, I own this person now. You know, and the gangs are smart. You know why they don't sell a lot of methamphetamine? Because the high lasts maybe 16, 20 hours. Heroin, you're coming back 4 or 5 times a day. They know what they're doing. And the sad part is one time I caught my son coming out of Walgreens with needles. So I went into Walgreens because I thought I had them. And they're allowed to give up to 10 needles to anybody that comes inside. You don't need a prescription for it. That knocked me to my knees because I'm like, oh my God.
And you're the parent. What can you do,
Right.
see?
Who do I turn to?
See.
You know, so I found out the hard way. That's why education, it's a priority I am so passionate about because nobody wants to be up the road I've been. You know, my son, I was just started getting into doing the presentations, and I have a relative call me. They seen my son, he disappeared. Seen him at Union Station with a sign and a cup, panhandling.
Oh,
As a parent,
how heartbreaking.
it's devastating.
How terrible.
Well, and that,
So-
you know, that shows the passion and what a
Oh, it's
person
heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
Sergeant Navarro is, because I was with him at one of the sheriff's forums in Fox Lake when he got that call, and his own son is in a train station in Chicago.
Yeah,
and
Union Station.
he is in Fox Lake trying to save other kids, other parents' kids. That's the passion. And again, the misconception is that, you know, cops are all just out there to arrest people and put people in jail. He's not the only guy in Lake County that feels this way. I'm not the only guy in Lake County that feels this way. The good news is there are an awful lot of folks out there working very passionately. People like Bruce Johnson, who is the director of NACASA, that fights daily to try and work on this issue. There's a young woman, Chelsea Laliberte, who has a program called Live for Lali. She lost her brother to a heroin overdose death. She has her own foundation. You know, I talk to parents who have lost kids. I talked to a woman that lost 2 sons separately to heroin overdose deaths. These are people in Lake County that deal with this, but are passionate about trying to overcome the issue.
You know, we as parents worry if our sons go off to war. And 2 of my sons went off to war, and then thank God they came back in one piece and alive. But there's a war here. This is a war. We're not destroying the enemy there. I mean, we are, but here the enemy doesn't walk on 2 feet.
Right.
It overtakes and overwhelms the human, the person itself. If someone who is watching this program is having a problem, and they say, gee, we need to have you guys in our school. We need you to talk in front of our church, in front of our congregation. We need you in front of Rotary or Lions Club or the Moose Lodge, anything. Would you guys go out? Do you guys go out do that?
Absolutely unconditional. And the people on the team, they've experienced this firsthand. It's affected their family. My partner, he's got a beautiful daughter that was a cheerleader. She's involved in opiates. I mean, to hear him speak, it gets you emotional.
Sure.
I mean, this is the real deal. This is epidemic. It's time to do something. And we have the facts. All we need is just people, the communities, just open their eyes and their ears. Because it's here. Like I said, it's not just knocking on the doors. It's in our houses. It's if a parent takes the time out to talk to their child or not.
Incredible.
We'll go anywhere, anytime. I'll go to any school. I'll go to any church. I think I've been to just about every Rotary Club in Lake County, and that's a great organization that I talk about this with every group that'll have me. Sheriff Curran bravely went out and put on a series of forums throughout the county where he'd go to Fox Lake, he'd go to North Chicago, he'd go to Vernon Hills, and he'd have these forums where they publicized the heck out of these things and invited people to come in and hear from Sergeant Navarro and hear from people and talk about this issue. And sadly, not a lot of people showed up. And that's the challenge. And the challenge is getting people to see this as a problem, because quite frankly, it's not something a lot of parents want to hear. It's not something a lot of parents want to acknowledge.
Here you can see he's brokenhearted. I mean, I can feel his deep passion for this and his broken heart, because I'm a parent as well. And although, thank God, we've not been touched with this, I can feel for him because he has a child. He loves his child. He wants to help his child. And I think that the community out there would like to do the same and help whoever they can. If you are a concerned parent, a teacher, an instructor for youth, for the safety of our preservation of our children. Get to know us, that's the sign here, and we're making a difference. That's out of the state's attorney's office, Michael Nerheim's office, and this is what we have to do. You were talking before about the prescription drugs.
Right. Thanks for bringing. I know we're running short on time, but I really want to. I really want to cover this because the question becomes so often, how does my beautiful daughter who plays lacrosse and is popular in school and gets straight A's, how does she get involved in heroin? And it's something that's very difficult for parents to wrap their heads around. And again, it's something that allows, I think, a lot of parents to really isolate themselves and say, well, this, not my kids, not my community, not my school. And again, these are the areas where this is happening. So how does that happen? And oftentimes we see there is a tie-in to prescription medication abuse. And there is a black market in every school in Lake County with regard to prescription medication. Kids have prescription, whether validly prescribed to them or prescription that they've taken from their parents or their grandparents' medicine cabinet, or they've bought from their friend. And they sell this and exchange it regularly in the school. It poses a couple problems. The obvious problem is the health problem, because there's a misconception among young people that, well, obviously I know heroin is bad and cocaine is bad and marijuana is bad, but if this pill is made by Abbott Laboratory and it comes in an orange bottle, that won't hurt me. Well, if you use it incorrectly, it will kill you. And kids don't see it that way. And there are literally parties that high school kids have where they call them Tic Tac parties or M&M parties. Well, they'll have a bowl, and everybody will walk in the house, and they'll dump pills in this bowl, and it'll be a bowl full of pills. It could be Oxycontin, it could be Vicodin, it could be aspirin, it could be anything. And these kids reach in and they take handfuls of these pills, and to them it's fun. And they have no idea what they're taking, and people are overdosing and dying based on just the pills. Now again, the tie-in between prescription medication and heroin is when you talk about some of these opiates like Oxycontin, for example, or Vicodin, we've seen cases where kids have had legitimate prescriptions for a sports injury, for example, and they develop an addiction to Oxycontin. And then they run out of their prescription. There's a black market in the school where they're buying these pills from their friends in the school, and that black market is actually pretty expensive. It's roughly about $1 a milligram. So in other words, if you're addicted to 80 milligram Oxycontin pills, it's a pretty expensive habit. And that kid realizes pretty quickly, well, I could pay $80 for a pill in school, or I could drive a couple miles down the road and buy heroin for $5 or $10, feel the same, and that's the tie-in. That's how these kids go from this prescription medication problem to the illicit drug problem. And again, the misconception, which we also have to overcome, is that these prescription pills are safe. They're safe if you use them appropriately and if you listen to your doctor. Sure. But if you use them inappropriately, they'll kill you, especially if you mix them with other drugs and with alcohol and things like that. One of the other issues that this coalition, this countywide coalition, is trying to develop is making it easy for people to take those medications off the streets, out of their houses. If you sprain your ankle and your doctor gives you Vicodin and you get 30 pills and you only take 5 or 6, what do you do with the rest of them? You can't dump them down the toilet because it's incredibly harmful to the environment.
Sure.
Our water purification systems are not equipped to take those chemicals out of the water system. So environmentally, flushing them down the toilet is not the right thing to do. Throwing them into the landfills is not the right thing to do. So what do? If you're a well-intentioned person and you want to get these pills out of your medicine cabinet so your kids aren't taking them or their friends aren't taking them, we need to make it as convenient and easy as possible for people to safely dispose of these drugs. And Lake County has 17 disposal sites. We're one of the best counties in the state, but we need to get a lot better. These disposal sites are largely at police departments.
We have it upstairs.
And Highland Park is a great police department in that they volunteer to do this. They don't have to do this, by the way, and it's something they take upon themselves. They have to store these drugs until they can safely dispose of them through the DEA, but they're willing to do that, and thankfully they are. And thankfully there are other police departments throughout Lake County that are willing to take on that responsibility. But again, they don't have to. My goal is to see a receptacle in every pharmacy in Lake County, which would effectively put one on just about every corner in Lake County.
Sure.
So you can very easily take these drugs off the streets, because we see people will go to a real estate open house, for example, just to go into the medicine cabinet and take your prescription medication, and it winds up in our kids' schools.
You wouldn't even think that, that somebody would infiltrate the privacy of someone's bathroom, and take something like that. That's, you're hitting a real addict at that point when they are in such need that they would do that.
And another problem too, real quick, is that parents are trusting their kids with their medications, because I've gone in kids' bedrooms on calls and I see prescription bottles in their bedrooms. As a parent, giving a kid a 30-day supply of maybe Ritalin, some kind of psychotropic medication, a stimulant that he needs to balance himself chemically, and they're trusting him. How do you think prescribed medications get into high schools and grammar schools? Because parents are trusting their kids. Here's your medication, take a pill a day. And it's affecting everybody. Again, we need to step up. Be a parent. Don't be a friend.
The other, I talked about how with the prescription medication, there's two problems with kids trading these medications in school. One of them is what we just talked about, the bigger problem, which is the health problem. But the other problem is, the law in Illinois is it's unlawful delivery of a controlled substance, which is essentially drug dealing. And it doesn't require that you sell drugs to somebody else. So in other words, if I go to high school and I'm 17 years old and I give you my Ritalin pill so you can go take it, I've just committed a very serious felony on a school, by the way. So now I think I'm just giving you one of my pills. I've committed unlawful delivery of a controlled substance in a school, and now I'm going to have a felony conviction on my record for the rest of my life. And that's another problem, because these kids, try to get through life with that type of a conviction on your background. So this is something that parents need to be aware of, kids need to be aware of, and we can't talk about this enough, because again, people are dying all over this county every day.
We're here basically to save lives, and that's why this is part one. This is part one. We're going to have a second program on this. We're going to have Michael and Dale come back, talk about the other aspects of this terrible problem. We need your cooperation. We need your attention. We need your education. We need you as a parent. Like Dale said, we don't want you as a friend to your child. Don't worry that he's not going to go to soccer or out for football or wherever he's at. You need to save his life. That's better than, out for football. When you can get that under control, then he can go for football. We need you to pay attention. We need you to be a part of the community to save the children's lives. They're very precious, these little souls, and once they're gone, they can't be duplicated. That's it. It's only a one-time shot that we go around. So we need your assistance, your attention. We absolutely need it. And whatever we can do to help you, we would appreciate that you connect with these agencies or connect with the state's attorney's office and ask for assistance. If you didn't get any of the other numbers before, at least call the state's attorney's office and ask for State's Attorney Michael Nerheim, 847-377-3000. And that will at least get you started. It sounds like you've got a wonderful, organization going for you. Now the idea is to keep up the diligence and to make sure that it pans out the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because, with all good intentions, it doesn't always work that way.
Right. And you had mentioned this is part one. So
part one.
We are obviously very motivated. We're very passionate about this. We're not going away. And there's a lot of people on our team that are right there with us. When we come back for part two, it's our hope that I can report to you what we've done and the successes we've had.
That would be great.
And
we would be very interested if any of our viewers called in or whatever, you don't have to give names, just say we had a call or somebody connected with us. That would be great, because that shows that the program is getting out. Your proposal for saving lives is even doing a better job than you anticipated, because we had the operation of doing a program, a cable TV program that will be able to be around all of Lake County and then some. So
if one parent calls me tomorrow, this is the best hour I've ever spent.
That'll be good. That'll be good.
We're in it one step at a time.
We appreciate, Dale, that you took time off to be able to come. I know this is a heart situation, and that's the whole idea, to be able to get people to help other people. Is when it breaks your heart, you want to extend a hand in helpfulness.
Well, parents got to understand, when you wait, you're jeopardizing your child's life.
See?
You have to act now. You have to call us. We have the resources. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be scared.
They are.
Call us.
They are. They're embarrassed. But better to be embarrassed for a flash and to have your child for a lifelong situation, to be healthy and alert and aware, and not to even dabble in the drugs.
We're here. I mean, we're here as a resource. I think the old way of doing things is law enforcement was always sort of reactionary, where somebody would break a law, sergeant would arrest them, bring them to me, we'd go to court and we'd prosecute them. That's the old way of doing things, and that's over. We're trying to get ahead of this, and we're trying to be proactive and prevent these things from happening in the first place.
That's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. Do we have much more time left? 3 minutes. Okay. Do we want to go through the community outreach education? Can you do it in 3 minutes?
I think I can. Or I can at least hit.
Okay, go ahead. You're on. You're on.
Again, getting to what we talked about, we're not just reactive. We're not just in court trying to put people in prison. There are a lot of programs we have in the community, and go on our website, check us out. We have anti-bullying programs. We have programs where we have the Lake County Sexual Assault Coordinating Council, which is a county-wide effort to combat that very serious issue, and we can spend hours talking about that.
Oh, for sure.
We have the Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, which deals with just domestic violence. We have the Lake County Juvenile Justice Council, where we spend a lot of time trying to prevent these young people from going into a life of adult criminal behavior. There are just so many programs that we have that a lot of people don't know about, and that's why I'm glad to be here, so we can hopefully educate people and let them know that there's more to us than just prosecutors in court.
Well, they don't know because they're not aware.
Right.
Maybe they haven't been involved with anything, and when it hits them, it's just like a sledgehammer, because they were unaware. Dale.
Well, it's a Lake County problem. It's not a Chicago problem no more.
County.
It's out here, and we need to face the facts if you want to save a life. Face the facts, accept the facts, and we can fight this fight. It's a good fight.
Yeah, it's a fight for life. A fight for life. This again, as we mentioned before, this is part 1. We're going to do a part 2. And please contact these gentlemen who have given their time. This is an evening program, and given their time to come and express to you their heartfelt thanks to the communities for letting them come into your churches, your schools, your clubs, to express the help that they are willing to give. All you need to do is pick up the phone and give them a call. That's the basis. That's step 1. From there, they'll be able to help you, without a doubt. We need to save our children. We need to make good community residents out of them, help them on their way. Everybody gets a little stuck along the travel of life, the road of life, but if we can be of service, we would like very much to do that for you. So we thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Dale. I really appreciate you coming. And thank you out there for allowing us in your home or your place of business. This is all off the cuff, as you see. There's nothing talking to me in my ears here. We appreciate you're watching the program. Have a very pleasant evening, a very safe week. See you next week on North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. And please, let's save our children. Let's do the best we can do and save our children. Thank you for watching. Stay warm. Have a pleasant weekend.